The cultist screamed. The long and spindly but unimaginably powerful arm of the Shy Guy had him by the leg, dragging him backwards, his fingernails carving deep ruts into the floor. His friend was already on the run, but his death warrant had been sealed by a glance. In the history of evil plans, rarely has an evil plan backfired so spectacularly. As the Shy Guy bellowed, destroying its latest prey and galloping after the second, which would soon become the third and the fourth and the fifth and so much more as the personnel of the SCP Foundation caught unplanned glimpses of his terrible face. It would take a god to undo the chaos that was unfolding. The exact same god that these two idiot cultists were here to destroy. The plan had seemed so simple, so perfectly straightforward on paper. Sneak into the SCP Foundation and assassinate SCP-343. That being said, even deluded cultists of the Scarlet King knew that killing the anomaly believed to be God himself was going to be far easier in theory than in practice. And yet, neither one of this intrepid pair of Foundation impersonators could ever have predicted things would go this bad. Several years earlier, Zachary and Cash were nothing more than a pair of social shut-ins trawling forums on the internet from the secluded sanctuary of their basements. In fact, it was on a particular one of these forums that would lead to the pair eventually meeting in person. Parawatch, a deep web online space for discussions of the supernatural. While there was nothing inherently insidious about Parawatch itself, it did draw in those who were interested in the paranormal and even the anomalous, like Zach and Cash. And that made the forum the perfect recruitment tool for those whose intentions were far more nefarious. Both men were individually approached by another user, who was only known by his screen name, COTSK. Over some lengthy conversations with this mysterious third party, both Zach and Cash found themselves being convinced into believing the core tenets of a murderous cult that revered a conceptual deity, the children of the Scarlet King. And it was during a secret gathering of their fellow members that Cash and Zach would not only meet, but find themselves specifically tasked with a mission that was meant to clear the way for the Scarlet King to enter our reality. Simply put, the two of them were tasked with killing God. The plan was devised by one of the longer-standing children of the Scarlet King, who divulged their cult's knowledge of the SCP Foundation, specifically an entity known as SCP-343, a powerful reality warper who had claimed to be the architect of the very universe itself. In the eyes of the Scarlet King's followers, this meant that SCP-343 could pose a direct threat to the ascension of their destructive deity. If the Scarlet King was ever to gain access to this universe, there was a high chance SCP-343 could oppose him. So, with stolen credentials and Foundation personnel garb, Zach and Cash were sent in to remove SCP-343 from the equation. It goes without saying that killing a being believed to be God himself was hardly an easy goal to achieve. Nobody could just poison SCP-343, or take him out using conventional weapons, or even use any other typical methods of assassination that would work on a human target. Instead, Zach and Cash needed to get creative. Luckily, there was another anomaly kept contained by the SCP Foundation that the children of the Scarlet King had thought would be perfect for the job. It was a miniature event horizon, a black sphere that could pull any nearby matter into itself. Anything brought within the vicinity of this anomalous wormhole would quickly be sucked in and ultimately lost forever with no chance of retrieval. Sure, it might not kill SCP-343, strictly speaking, but it could certainly remove him from play, leaving the universe unprotected against the rise of the Scarlet King. However, there was one tiny problem. One otherwise minute detail that, because it went uncorrected, jeopardized the whole plan. It could have been down to inaccurate information that the children of the Scarlet King had on the SCP Foundation. After all, the organization was known for keeping its operations and even its very existence a closely guarded secret. Or perhaps, sheerly due to human error, The wrong number was said by the wrong cultist at the wrong moment, misheard or misread, leading to a 4 being replaced with a 6. You see, the miniature event horizon was designated as SCP-094, but by mistake, Zack and Cash had slipped undetected into the Foundation in search of SCP-096, unaware that anomaly was far from what they were expecting. The look of terror on Zack's face appeared instantly as the pair of Scarlet King fanatics opened the door to the containment cell. That same horrified look had vanished just as quickly the second that SCP-096 took notice of the 2 new visitors. In the blink of an eye, the abnormally proportioned humanoid anomaly had gone from being hunched over in a corner, gently rocking itself, to standing directly in front of Zack and Cash, towering over them both and screeching incoherently. Cash turned and ran, abandoning his cultist compatriot as Zack screamed in fear. The Shy Guy had grabbed him. A moment later, his screams had been silenced, thanks to SCP-096. Cash had no idea what the creature was. All he knew was it certainly wasn't the miniaturized black hole he and Zack had been sent to find, but he tried to keep the original goal in mind, even in a moment of crisis. Take out SCP-343 so that the Scarlet King could rise. Maybe this other anomaly, whatever it was, could stand a chance against the reality warper. Cash would never get to find out, however, as he was tackled to the ground by a Foundation security team as he turned the corner. But SCP-096 had been hot on the cultist's heels and had appeared behind him just as he was being restrained by security officers. And the whole unit could see the Shy Guy now, which meant not one of them stood a chance. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the facility, oblivious to the carnage of the unfolding containment breach, SCP-343 was enjoying a stroll around the Foundation site, with a hamburger in one hand and a milkshake in the other. He had spent most of the afternoon the way he usually did, phasing out of reality to an extra-dimensional astral plane outside of our known universe, where he could privately enjoy a game of solitaire using a deck of cards conjured out of nothingness. Upon returning, polishing off the dregs of his lunch, which he also willed into existence from nowhere, SCP-343 barely noticed that the entire Foundation seemed to be on red alert. Or more accurately, he did notice. He just didn't do much to help. You see, one of the more notable things about SCP-343, aside from the fact that he can use his anomalous abilities to do literally anything imaginable, is that he very much enjoys taking a back seat. He claims that after creating the universe, he got tired of having to be in control of everything, everywhere, all at once. Good movie, by the way. And so, while SCP-343 could right every wrong and solve every problem in the entire universe, he chooses not to. All to pursue the illusion of giving up control and leaving the universe to its own devices. That is, unless something tries to harm him directly, and something was very much about to. While the pair of Scarlet King cultists who had accidentally set SCP-096 free were already dead, they'd unknowingly started a chain reaction. The Foundation desperately dispatched more of its personnel to try and recontain the Shy Guy, but the more they sent, the more of them observed the creature. This gave SCP-096 even more targets, extending its rage state as it zipped through the Foundation, killing everyone that had clasped eyes on it, until that rage-fueled rampage led to coincidentally cross paths with SCP-343, who had just walked through a wall on his way back to his cell, right into the path of SCP-096. Oh dear, dear me. SCP-343 sighed, finishing the remainder of his milkshake before making the empty cup and straw disappear. It's been some time, hasn't it, Ian? My boy, look at what's become of you. For a moment, SCP-096 seemed to pause, its pale skin flecked with droplets of blood thanks to the sheer number of guards and researchers it had torn through for daring to look at it. I see you're still having the same old troubles, the reality warper continued, reacting eerily calmly and casually towards the towering monster. You know, you really ought to work on your confidence. That did it. The sentence touched a nerve within the Shy Guy, giving it a pang of sadness that erupted quickly into an unbridled rage. It did not matter that SCP-343 was a powerful anomaly with the ability to do almost anything. He had still looked at SCP-096. In fact, he was looking directly at it, and that meant he had to go. His fate was sealed as the creature began wailing and charging straight for SCP-343. With a casual wave of his hand, God swiped the creature aside, sending SCP-096 flying. Thrown telekinetically, much to its surprise, the creature found itself phasing through walls as it sailed between corridors and other containment chambers, in and out, until it sailed through the solid steel walls of its own cell, landing right back in the corner that it had started in. But rather than return to crying in a fetal position as it normally did, SCP-096 got right back up and raced back through the halls of the facility, homing in on SCP-343. Being sent back to its room was enough to keep the Shy Guy's rage state active, and it hadn't changed the fact that God had still looked at it, so he had to kill him. Traveling at anomalous speeds, SCP-096 blinked into existence right behind SCP-343 as he sat down and relaxed in his favorite chair. The horrific humanoid shrieked loudly. Although SCP-343 didn't turn around to look at it, he already knew it was there. He had sensed it even before it left its cell. With yet another lazy swish of his hand, SCP-343 sent the Shy Guy away. This time, SCP-096 realized its long legs seemed to be moving independently, walking backwards along the exact same steps it had taken to get into SCP-343's containment chamber. It continued going backwards, and despite its frustrated attempts to rush back towards the reality-warping old man, it couldn't. Little did the Shy Guy realize it wasn't the only one. SCP-343's command over the fundamental laws of the universe was so great that he had altered time itself. Everything was now running in reverse, albeit for a few short moments. Birds in the sky were flying backwards, waterfalls were flowing upwards, the Earth was spinning in the opposite direction on its axis. Everything in existence was like an old VCR tape being rewound, until SCP-096 found itself once again back in its cell. Now the Shy Guy was mad, really mad. The moment SCP-343 allowed time to return to its normal, forward chronological flow, SCP-096 once again raced out of its containment chamber, hunting down the latest person to have seen its wide-jawed face. Usually, nothing could stop SCP-096 from catching up to its target, often killing them without fail. But the fact that SCP-343 could so easily rework the rules of the universe to send it back to its room made the self-conscious creature all the more agitated, and it was only going to get worse and worse. SCP-096 kept trying, infamously relentless. But every time SCP-343 presented some new, unpredictable way of stopping the Shy Guy from getting to him. On one attempt, he caused the creature's atoms to rearrange themselves into long strands the closer it got, effectively turning into Shy Guy's spaghetti. During another, SCP-343 actually reworked the way that sight works across the entire universe, making it so that on a conceptual level, he'd technically never looked at SCP-096, according to this newly redefined way of seeing things. Every time SCP-343 set the Shy Guy back, but never deterred him. He kept coming back. That is, until, bored by the constant back and forth between them, SCP-343 waited for SCP-096 to arrive next to him once again. At that moment, he snapped his fingers, and the creature stopped in its tracks. A story filled its mind, the story of a once normal kid. This young child had been bullied and ostracized by other children, made fun of for his appearance. They became depressed, self-loathing, keeping away from everyone out of fear that they'd be taunted. The child started to hide their face, desperate that nobody look at them and laugh.
Listen.
SCP-343 told SCP-096 there was nothing around them. The universe had seemingly faded away as the pair stood in a pocket of space outside of reality.
Just listen closely.
Silence. Not a whisper, not even the creature's own breathing could be heard.
No one is laughing at you anymore, my son.
SCP-343 whispered.
It is okay. You can stop now. There is nobody left who can hurt you.
With that, SCP-096's very reason for being had ceased. The Shy Guy didn't exist anymore. It didn't need to. Restoring the universe to its previous state with another click of his fingers, SCP-343 was free to sit back in his chair and relax. There, he could continue pretending he wasn't in control. Now go check out SCP-343 God vs. Bill Cipher from Gravity Falls, and SCP-096 Tale, A Lesson in Power for even more SCP.